A lot of people are struggling with how to come up with a personal or business purpose. And we just heard Shannon speak to our audience about this. So Shannon, can you get us started with that process? How should we do that?
Absolutely. It's interesting. So I'm the Chief Purpose Officer at PwC, and so we've looked a lot into how people can find their own personal purpose, and certainly as an organization we have our purpose, which is to build trust in society and solve important problems. But your personal purpose is something that's always been in you. You probably just haven't realized that there's something that's been behind the decisions that you've made throughout your entire life. And a lot of it is reflecting on what are those relationships, impact, and growth experiences that you've had that really tie to something that is important to you and really help to define you as an individual. For me, I realized that I really wanted to live the legacy of 4 very strong women in my life that I lost far too early. And I realized that even when I was 20, I was making decisions that were for them and were in light of wanting to show that they were these strong, amazing business women and people who helped their community. But it took me a while to think it, so you had to really sit down and figure it out.
Okay, so you mentioned business, to also look at how the business is around us. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that something that's core to your purpose is something that's going to be there. Now, you might add to that, or there might be different incidents or circumstances in your life that make you want to increase your purpose or be able to evolve it, but there's still going to be something that from the very beginning really helps to drive who you are. And it's trying to figure out what is that, and then obviously your style is going to change as you change personally and professionally, but there still is something usually that is at the core of who you are that won't altogether change.
Yeah. So how did PwC go through that process? Can you talk a little bit about that, coming up with a purpose?
Well, we really did a lot of work at the global level. And so our global leadership team worked with different organizations internally and externally to help figure out what were those words, what were things that were core to the foundation of who we were. And again, focusing on not what we do, but why we do it. And then what we did is we came up with different words and tried to associate with them. We opened it up to the entire partnership to say what mattered, what resonated, because it had to be something that we all lived, and it was something that had to be meaningful and really get at the why we're in existence and why we've been in existence for so long. And so through that process, finally there was a statement that was adopted and then released to the entire firm globally.
Okay. So PwC, many of us know it, especially watching in now. How can this translate to a smaller business who may hear the word global and kind of say, oh, that's, I'm in.
The great thing about purpose is it's so individual. And so I actually think it's a challenge at PwC and link that to the firm's purpose. It's a challenge because a lot of it has to be that individual conversation to really get at that sense of belonging that people have. I think smaller organizations can do that more and can really start to have people reflect on decisions that they make and how they're feeling and probably get a more even personal understanding of what someone's personal purpose is, and then can really talk them through how might that intersect with what the organizational purpose is. So I think there's a lot of great things that smaller companies can do as they build up that sense of meaning and
talk is what, with a lot of the diverse backgrounds, how can the purpose kind of come together? And you did speak a little bit about that, but can you talk a little bit more on that topic of diversity, inclusion, and how to bring that together with your purpose?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we've found, and certainly with a purpose like ours where you're talking about building trust in society and important problems, you can't look at the world today and issues that are going on without saying, gosh, there's things about race and diversity and inclusion and women and LGBTQ and all these different, regardless of the country that you're in. And so we've really looked at what are the types of programs that we can have in order to put more systemic change around it. And that's really where we've created created with Tim Ryan, our CEO, the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion, and now having over 500 CEOs be a part of that. And then also we have a commitment around Access Your Potential, which is a 5-year, $320 million commitment around education, specifically to look at youth and to look at underserved communities and how can we teach them both financial literacy as well as digital and other technology advancements.
Great. And so how have you measured the purpose impact, I guess, across PwC in the last 2 to 3 years?
We look at it coming from a lot of different areas. And so one, we certainly have our Global People Survey, and so have an understanding now that people can adopt it more and have an understanding about what it actually is and how do they align to it. We also have been really interested to see all of the innovations that have come. One of the things that come out of an organization that is purpose-driven is that they're transformational. And we've had a lot of new businesses that have come out of those practices, food security and crisis management in different areas around healthcare. So we've really seen the growth in people taking it and actually activating it. And I think that's what's been most interesting. We also have a lot of our staff who talk about it, and we do a lot of trainings where they get into rooms and they can really explore what their purpose is, either from a training perspective or just developmental conversations.
That's so neat. Do you have any final thoughts or anything to kind of pass on to our viewers?
Well, I mean, I just think that in the day and age that we're at, the really alignment between business and society is critical. And we have to figure out how to couple those two things and really start talking about the stories and the narratives that make that come to life. And I think there's nothing better to do that than to talk about purpose.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Shannon, so much for being here, and tune in